welcome to Tiny Teacup Reads. Thank you for being here with me. Today I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorite books that I read in the month of January. This book is called Book Lovers by Emily Henry and it was published in 2022. It's a contemporary romance, but I would say it also falls into the very loosely defined genre of chick lit. I've read one other book by this author called The People We Meet on Vacation, and while I wasn't completely blown away by that one, I did really enjoy it and wanted to give the author another chance, and that's why I picked this book. And I have to say, I think Book Lovers is the better one of the two. I read this in the span of a weekend in only a few sessions. It was one of those books that really didn't take long to get into at all. I was pretty much hooked right from the beginning. But let me give you a spoiler-free introduction to the plot of the book. Our main character and the person who is telling the story is Nora, who, by her own admission, is a bit of a caricature of the ruthless, workaholic New York City gal. She's a literary agent and very good at her job, but she doesn't have much of an outside life. The only other person she really seems to care about is her younger sister, Libby. So when Libby suggests that they spend the month of August out of the city and in a tiny town called Sunshine Falls in North Carolina, Nora agrees. Libby has some vague notions of getting Nora to change her ways and work less and maybe even fall in love with somebody local, but instead Nora keeps running into Charlie, who she knows from her work. And he is gorgeous, of course, as they always are in these stories, but their first meeting did not go well. They both think that the other person is cold and stuck up, but as they keep running into each other, it gets harder and harder to deny the chemistry. Nora herself is an avid reader, so she always has a lot to say about the things that are happening in her life and whether they do or do not fall into those common plot points that you often find in novels. As you can tell, this book has a lot of the tropes that are often associated with the genre, but it's very self-aware about it, very tongue-in-cheek, and I feel like it gently and lovingly pokes fun at those tropes without ever going too much over the top with it. Personally, I thought that the strongest part of this book was definitely the characters. Nora, despite all of her flaws, was somebody that I came to root for really quickly, maybe even because she's so open and self-aware about her own flaws and just self-deprecating enough without being over the top that makes you really care for her. And that happened really quickly too. And as for the romance, I feel like the whole enemies to lovers trope is very hit or miss. I feel like a lot of authors go too over the top with the whole hating each other thing at the beginning, so that when you finally do get to the romance, it feels kind of too quick or too unrealistic that these two characters would suddenly stop caring about the whole past that they have just to hook up. But in this case, I really like the fact that the author made the two characters, Charlie and Nora, respect each other professionally. They both admit that the other person is good at their job, so it feels a lot more like rivals who sort of rub each other the wrong way rather than actually detesting each other. And I have to say, I think the whole opposites attract thing is kind of overdone. So it was much more interesting to see two people whose whole big problem was that they are too similar to each other rather than too different. Another thing I often don't like in these kind of books is the banter. I feel like that just blew up and that became the thing that people expect in romance book, is that the characters have banter with each other, but it's a lot harder to do right than people think. So a lot of the times it just comes across as two people insulting each other, or even worse, one person constantly insulting the other person, and then I don't want to root for them to get together. Which is where I think this book did a really good job, because their banter, instead of hurling personal insults at each other, is them sharing cryptid erotica and making fun of it together, which I think is a much more healthy foundation to a relationship. I also like that the big thing that these two people have to try to overcome to potentially be together wasn't some outside force like, you know, an ex who's trying to sabotage their relationship. The thing that they have to overcome isn't a person or an outside force at all. It's the circumstances that they find themselves in and their own personal complicated histories and past and the walls that they've built up to protect themselves. And I think that's A, a lot more realistic, and B, a lot harder to write. So I really respect the author for going the more difficult route when it came to the plot here. I wish Goodreads let you give half stars, because I would have given this a 4.5, but instead I just gave it a 4. I know it's controversial, but I am very stingy with my 5 stars. I think for something to deserve 5 stars, it has to be something that really sticks with you, something that you want to reread over and over and over again. And while this was a lot of fun, and I do think I will reread it again in a year or maybe 2, it just was lacking that little something extra to push it over the edge and make it deserve 5 stars. But I think if you're into the genre, you will really enjoy this one, and I very much recommend it. And I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out for this author and take a look at any other books that she has or that she has coming out. I think her latest one is called Funny Story, and that's already on my Kindle wish list, so that one's probably going to be the next one of hers that I read. But what about you? Have you read this book? Did you enjoy it? Do you have any other Emily Henry books that you would recommend to me? Please do let me know in the comments because I would love to see what you think. But for now, thank you so much for spending time with me. I hope you have a great day, and I hope that I will see you in the next video. Bye!